In every age, power wears a different mask. Once it was kings and conquerors. Today, it is bankers. They do not rule with armies or swords, but with numbers, signatures, and quiet conversations behind closed doors. The families who built the modern world did not need thrones. They owned the debts of those who sat on them. Rothschild, Morgan, Warburg, Rockefeller. These were not just men. They were architects of empires made of credit and confidence. Their weapon was trust. Their battlefield, the balance sheet. And their victory, the creation of a system where nations themselves became clients.
It began in a small house on a narrow street in Frankfurt. A man named Mayer Amschel Rothschild was not born into power, he built it. From his coin shop beneath the Red Shield, he learned a truth that kings had forgotten. Information moves faster than gold. While others hoarded metal, Mayer hoarded knowledge. Who owed whom, which armies needed money, and when wars would begin. He sent his 5 sons across Europe, to London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, to weave a web of finance stronger than any empire. They did not conquer nations, they financed them. When kings went to war, Rothschilds sold the bonds. When peace returned, Rothschilds collected the interest. By the time Napoleon fell, the family's network stretched across the continent. Their couriers carried news faster than armies, faster even than governments. And in a single moment of silence, at the Battle of Waterloo, that speed made them legends.
June 1815. The fields of Waterloo were drenched in rain and blood. Cannons thundered, empires trembled, and somewhere far from the front lines, Nathan Rothschild was watching and waiting. In that era, news traveled by horse. Days could decide fortunes. Rothschild's careers were faster. When Napoleon fell, his agents in Brussels saw it first. By dawn, the message was racing toward London, sealed in wax, guarded by silence. Nathan received the news before the British government itself. He went to the London Stock Exchange. Calm, silent. He began to sell. Panic spread. Traders believed Britain had lost. Prices collapsed. And then, when the market lay in ruins, Rothschild's agents quietly bought everything back. Within hours, the news of victory arrived. The market exploded upward, and Nathan made in one day what kings could not earn in a lifetime. It was not war that made him powerful. It was information. And from that day forward, the world learned a new rule. He who controls the news controls the future.
After Waterloo, the world was no longer ruled by kings alone. It was ruled by balance sheets and by those who knew how to read them. Governments needed money. Wars needed funding. And behind every flag, behind every anthem, there was a banker. Loans became weapons. Debt became diplomacy. Empires were now built not on conquest, but on credit. The Rothschilds financed railways and revolutions. The Morgans built America's industries and saved its treasury. The Warburgs helped design central banks. The Rockefellers turned oil into empire. These families did not need crowns. Their thrones were in boardrooms. Their armies were accountants. Their power was quiet, mathematical, and absolute. By the dawn of the 20th century, the old monarchies had faded, but the empire of money
was just beginning.
Every empire builds the machine that will one day destroy it. For modern civilization, that machine is debt. What began as a tool of growth became an addiction. Nations learned to borrow not to build, but to survive. Governments financed wars, then social programs, then simply the interest on the last war. Central banks discovered they could print away pain. Politicians learned they could buy time. Citizens learned to live beyond their means and call it progress. The machine fed on promises, numbers without substance, wealth without work. And like every empire before it, the financial world began to rot from within. Bubbles replaced industries, speculation replaced labor, and the very families that once built nations now struggled to contain the chaos they had unleashed. Debt had become the oxygen of the global system, and like oxygen, too much of it would burn everything.
When money dies, the body of society does not die immediately. It decays slowly. Contracts lose meaning. Wages lose value. Trust becomes a memory. History has seen this before. Rome, when soldiers refused coins that no longer shined. Weimar Germany, when families burned paper marks to keep warm. Zimbabwe, when a loaf of bread cost billions. When money breaks, people stop believing in work, in savings, in the future itself. Crime rises, families fracture, governments tighten control. The middle class, the backbone of every stable society, disappears. And all that's left is chaos, gilded for a while, then violent. Because money is not just paper, it is trust. And once trust dies, no empire can stand.
Collapse is never the end. It is the clearing of the field, brutal but necessary. When the old order burns, what remains are the fundamentals: labor, land, and trust. After Rome's fall, farmers and craftsmen rebuilt what armies had destroyed. After Weimar, a new currency, anchored in discipline, restored belief. After every collapse, people rediscover that real wealth cannot be printed. It must be earned. The reset is not a button. It's a generation learning again how to live with limits. And though the cycle always returns, so does renewal. The ashes of every empire hold the seeds of the next.
History does not repeat, it rhymes. The faces change, the empires change, but the pattern remains. Debt rises, wealth concentrates, trust erodes, then the cycle resets. Each generation believes it is smarter than the last, yet each one walks the same road, from gold to paper, from faith to illusion. The lesson is simple, but no one wants to hear it. Real wealth cannot be printed, and no empire is too powerful to fall. The ledger of history always balances, in gold, in blood, or in time. You are living in the next entry.